Hello, everyone, and welcome. In just a few moments, we'll get started. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the world. A big welcome. This is a webinar entitled Empowering Energy Solutions, Showcasing ATESS C&I Solutions and Financing Opportunities with Odyssey's Supply Chain Credit and Solutions. So I hope you're in the right place. We're really excited to have with us today Emma Leo, who's the sales manager of ATESS, who will be presenting an overview of their commercial and technical solutions as an OEM, as a premier tier 1 OEM, and also Odyssey. Many of you may be familiar, but we are a tech platform enabling the distributed renewable energy market, which we'll tell you all about. But before we do so, just a friendly reminder that this is a webinar, and we will have Q&A at the end of the session. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation, both on technical or commercial matters. Please don't hesitate, and we will address those questions at the end of the webinar. Also, many of you may wonder if this presentation will be available, and the answer is indeed yes. We provide all of our presentations on YouTube, so they will be available in this recorded format, available on YouTube. And if you would like the actual PowerPoint presentation, you can get in touch with us and we'll share that with you. So if there's any other questions, feel free to, again, ask them at any point in the presentation, and then we will address them at the end. So without further ado, my name is Justin Tinsey. I am the head of procurement solutions at Odyssey, and we'll walk you through now, who Odyssey is, what we can offer your company in partnership with our partners, ATESS, and then I'll turn it over to Emma to provide more of a deep dive into their solutions. All right, so Odyssey is a platform, and we scale investment in distributed renewable energy by providing finance, technology, and supply chain services, accelerating project development and impact in growth markets. So we work at every angle of the ecosystem, supporting financiers, solar companies, and equipment manufacturers. And we do this primarily by focusing on two angles. One is for financiers, both commercial and concessional financiers. We help deploy financing faster and reduce costs through our technology platform. So whether it's a commercial bank, such as Nedbank in South Africa, or a concessional development finance lender, such as the World Bank, supporting mini-grid projects in Nigeria, we offer our platform to these financiers to better evaluate distributed renewable energy projects and ultimately help in the efficient deployment of capital to these projects. We also support solar companies. Perhaps the biggest beneficiary and end user of these products is the solar companies, and we support them to access capital, offering both long-term and short-term credit to ease working capital constraints. We do this primarily in the form of supply chain credit, which we will share more information on shortly, but also in support of supply chain services that can support at any stage of the supply chain, both upstream, let's say FOB or through shipment, also all the way to downstream, which you could say is last mile delivery or warehousing or clearing. We have a lot of companies on our platform, more than 2,600 companies on our platform. We've deployed more than $2 billion in capital throughout emerging markets, and we've deployed more than 2.3 million solar systems that are being monitored on our platforms. We also support a number of financing programs, both commercial and concessional finance programs. Many of you, if you're dialing in from Nigeria, may be familiar with the DARES program, which Odyssey is a partner and supporting the implementation of that program, but also with commercial banks and other financing programs throughout emerging markets. So what can we offer your company in support of your projects and in partnership with ATESS? So let's take a deep dive into our supply chain credit solutions, which we focus on tier 1 equipment brands, where we can complement our credit with our supply chain support, as I mentioned, and overall support for your projects to be a one-stop shop for your credit and supply chain requirements and equipment requirements. And then we'll briefly look at the end at our asset management tools to support your key KPIs that may be required for your project. So let's first look at a typical supply chain. So a supply chain is usually broken down into production, the FOB departure point from the port, usually in China or other countries, but predominantly China, as well as then shipping into port, CFR at the destination side, the destination port, as well as then final delivery, often warehousing if it's required, and then delivery to a project site, and then project completion. So our two credit solutions are designed to support this supply chain. And we'll take a deep dive now into our two solutions. One is procurement credit, and the second is construction credit. So let's first take a look at procurement credit, which looks at providing credit support from production all the way through clearing to the host country and into Odyssey's warehouse. So with procurement credit and construction credit, you'll see that there's a lot of similarities, and we'll get into that just now. But with procurement credit, there is a deposit requirement somewhere between 15 to 30%, and it's only for pre-qualified equipment, which will allow the order to be initiated. And this is available in the key markets of Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Brazil, which we're excited that we just added to our portfolio, and we were at Intersolar in Brazil 2 weeks ago, where we launched this offering with our partners there. We've now are just expanding it to Mexico and India as well. And the balance of the equipment can be paid after arrival in the country. Now, construction credit is very similar, and it's available across all of Africa, India, and most countries in Latin America, with the focus in the beginning on Brazil and Mexico. And it's very similar in that 15 to 50% deposit is required, and it's designed to support the working capital requirements throughout the implementation of a project. Now let's take a bit of a closer look. So for procurement credit, as I mentioned, this is actually only available in Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya, Brazil, Mexico, and India. And that is because Odyssey has warehousing and entities in each of these countries. And what that allows us to do in support of your project is to make a very quick determination of the creditworthiness of the procurement. And I'm very careful to not say creditworthiness of your company, because what we do to analyze this transaction is actually look at the equipment that's being procured and the market in which it's going. And what that allows us to do is de-risk the transaction so far as saying, as long as you're procuring this key equipment, which is usually tier 1 monocrystalline solar panels, versatile inverters, whether that's hybrid or grid tie, or batteries, which has traditionally been low voltage lithium batteries, but now we're seeing a trend, of course, more to high voltage versatile lithium batteries. And as long as it fits in one of those categories from a tier 1 supplier, then we can analyze this transaction and give approval of credit within 2 to 3 days. This is a very unique offering, and what sets Odyssey apart from a traditional bank in analyzing these transactions. And we can approve transactions up to $5 million. We can provide a credit facility up to 6 months in this transaction, which includes production time as well as delivery, and then a certain grace period to pay the balance after arrival in the country. Deposits are dependent on the equipment type. Panels and batteries generally have a higher deposit due to price fluctuations than inverters. And then we have a cost of credit associated with this facility, which is a processing fee on the full transaction value, as well as a monthly fee on the balance amount. Now, this cost of credit, as you'll see here, varies wildly by different country. So the rates in Nigeria are very different than South Africa and Brazil and Mexico, etc. And that's simply because, of course, the cost of capital is very different across these markets. We will accept local currency payments in these countries, but it's always tied to a dollar-backed contract. And this is a payment that can be made, in bullets, and up until final balance is made on the procurement. So this is a very unique offering. We've had it now for almost 2 years, and it's supporting developers and EPCs throughout these core markets. Now, what we've learned, and let me go back for a moment, is that in offering procurement credit, we offer credit all the way up to Odyssey's warehouse, which is wonderful in that it really solves a lot of problems for working capital constraints for most developers and EPCs, but it doesn't go the full last mile in supporting the developer and getting the equipment to site, and then helping to meet milestone payments from the off-taker. And so that's why we introduced construction credit. And construction credit will go further. Procurement credit will go up to 6 months. Construction credit will go up to 12 months. So from time of payment, in which then Odyssey would pay a supplier, we can extend the credit up to 12 months to allow that equipment to get to site, and then allow that off-taker to meet the milestone payments, and then Odyssey would be paid back. Now, how can that work? So let's go through a few of the key points. So this is very similar in structure, although it would essentially bypass Odyssey's warehouse unless it's required to go there, but it would go straight to the project site. Odyssey would handle all the supply chain related to that, and it's included in our proposal and contract with the customer. However, two key factors are important. One is an escrow agreement. So we have to understand who the off-taker is and how Odyssey will be paid. So, let's take a perfect example, perfect world, and that is Coca-Cola is the client of one of our EPCs, and EPC slash developer, use them interchangeably in this example, has a contract with Coca-Cola for $1 million, and the equipment value of that maybe is $700,000, and they will get paid the balance of their full $1 million contract after they install the solar project. So perhaps that EPC or developer requires 8 to 10 months of a credit facility to get that equipment to site and then to deploy that. So a certain amount of that contract can be paid upfront to Odyssey. Maybe it's matched to their own contract with Coca-Cola. Maybe they get 10 or 15 or 20% upfront. And then they can use some of those funds matched with some perhaps from their own balance sheet to pay the deposit to Odyssey, which will kickstart the procurement. Then we bring everything to the site, and then that triggers the final balance payment, which vis-a-vis through some escrow milestone mechanism, which looks very different based on the country, we then secure that offtake payment to Odyssey, covering the cost of the equipment. So this is not balance sheet lending. This is off-balance sheet lending, which can be very beneficial to a developer or EPC, and it's in the form of credit only for the CapEx, only for the equipment. So we look at, one, the off-taker in the project is very important, secured by this escrow. And then number two, we look at the EPC and their track record, or the developer and their track record, and their ability to execute such projects. So as you can imagine, this credit line requires more due diligence. So we really need to understand the project and the EPC in greater detail. And we have a full process that you can follow to submit your projects and see if you can qualify for this credit. So if you're interested, you can visit our website. We'll post it here in the chat box, and you can learn more about this construction credit facility. We have a full YouTube presentation that outlines, how you can apply for this. And if you're not in touch already, we're really excited in Nigeria to say that we're offering this credit for DARES participating companies. So if you're participating in the World Bank funded DARES program, please get in touch, and we can offer you this credit for your next mini grid project. All right, I'm sure that opened up a whole bunch of questions. So please feel free to ask some of those questions. We'll get to them at the end of this presentation. But before we do that, we're going to turn it to ATESS in here in just a minute. But I would like to just briefly touch on one final offering that we have, and that is our asset management support. So I'll be coming to you in just a minute, Emma. So this slide just briefly shows some of the supply chain solutions that we can offer in support of those credit offerings that I outlined. So we have full in-house supply chain expertise to support you. And we can also offer you these supply chain solutions on their own. So we're doing this with a number of partners currently, even OEM partners as well as EPCs, where we can simply offer our supply chain services to get equipment from point A to point B, and work with our trusted network of OEMs in doing so, and 3PL partners and warehousing partners, etc. So if you're interested in this, please get in touch, and we're happy to see if we can support you. And then lastly, our asset management solutions, which is especially relevant to financiers and other kind of aggregators of projects. So we can aggregate projects into one platform to show technical KPIs So this can be technical information that's very similar to the analytics on a typical inverter that shows the state of health of a project, but it can also incorporate commercial analytics that show, let's say, the ROI on a project or the total CapEx spent on a project, etc. And so we have this specific in-house expertise, and we're partnering with a number of financiers to offer this solution, and we call this our end-to-end asset management solution. And this can be customized to the KPIs that are required by the organization, and then we can have special algorithms and other control mechanisms in place to support with project management of those assets. And we're able to do this because we have a number of API integrations with leading OEMs, including, of course, ATESS, where we can integrate at the inverter level for both API, but as well as hardware integration when necessary. So we do have our own hardware that plugs into standard communication ports such as CAN bus, etc., to allow this this asset management. All right, so now without further ado, I'm going to turn it to my friend Emma Liu, who has been a guest on many of Odyssey's events, and I'm delighted to introduce her today to share with us more information on ATESS products and their solutions. So Emma, over to you, and we'll circle back at Q&A.
Thank you, Justin. Hi guys, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. Actually, we have worked with Odyssey for several projects in Nigeria, and working with them, you can feel that they are a very efficient team, and their procurement process is very quick. And I'm sure they are a trustable partner to work with. Then now I'm gonna introduce also ATESS Solutions to let you know how ATESS can be your trustable partner too. So our topic today is, I'm sorry, my name is Emma. I'm the sales manager of ATESS Power. And you can check our topic today on the screen. Our topic is harnessing the power of innovation, ATESS microgrid solutions for seamless energy continuity. Okay, can you imagine life without stable electricity? In the hot summer of maybe 35 degrees, your room has no AC and the water pump stops working. You cannot even get drinking water. And you have to breathe the air that is already filled with thick smoke and pungent smells because people use too much environmentally unfriendly energy to generate electricity. We're solving this problem by using one of the cleanest natural energy sources, solar energy. But how can we ensure the stability of this source of electricity? I have three parts to share with you guys today. The first two parts are case studies. I want to show you some cases we already done in Africa. And the last one part is a simple company introduction. For the case study part, we will divide it into two parts according to the size of the projects. First, let's look at large scale projects. Its main application scenarios include factories and farms. Check out this first case. It's a local beverage factory equipped with heavy assembly line machines. This project is based in South Africa, and a big factory always comes with a complex load types. Sensitive loads restart causing inrush current, delay response time under the heavy load, harmonics problems. In this case, we must use transformer-based equipment to solve these problems. So you can see on the right side, customer installed the rooftop PV system with two sides of ATESS containers. There are 3 transformer-based PCS 500 inverters and 3 megawatt-hours batteries inside. The system provides uninterrupted and long-lasting power in a cost-effective way. There's no more load shedding issues in this factory from now on. The next one is an off-grid solar farm for irrigation, 1.5 megawatt PCS inverters plus 2.8 megawatt hours battery. These containers act as a permanent power source, allowing for an easy plug-and-play installation on site. They were using 3 containers working in parallel. And you can see this is a picture of our container. The container solution will provide are equipped with AC, fire suppression systems, smoke sensors, temperature sensors, so the safety of the system can be guaranteed. The PCS inverters we have applied for the 2 systems has 5 models, from 100 kilowatt to 1000 kilowatt single unit. And I can tell you the most popular models are actually PCS 500 and PCS 630. If there is an off-grid situation, up to 4 units can be connected in parallel. So we can do 4 megawatt max for off-grid. One of the unique features of ATESS inverters is the isolation transformer. PCS inverter using for a large-scale system must be equipped with an isolation transformer. It can provide neutral and line for AC side, eliminate harmonic waves, and improve safety and protection. The isolation transformer of PCS 100 kilowatt and 250 is built in, and the other 3 models, 500, 630, and 1000, they are internally wired and externally installed. Also, speaking of BESS containers, we have to introduce you to our battery solutions. We have 2 options here. You can see on the left side is a smaller module. Each module is 7.68 kilowatt hours. On the right side, this is a bigger module, and each module is 14.3 kilowatt hours. The main difference between battery rack and cabinet is the protection level. Battery rack can only be installed in the operation room with AC or in our container, but the battery cabinet can be installed outdoors. It has AC and the fire suppression system integrated, and the protection level is IP54. ATESS battery solution is comes with a 3-level BMS, which enables you to achieve easy installation and maintenance. Check out this typical AC coupling diagram of PCS plus bypass. That's the solution we have applied for the factory and farm. PCS can switch between on and off grid within 20 milliseconds, which makes the system uninterrupted. You can check the left side. The DC power sources such as PV power, battery power, PCS will convert all DC power sources to AC power and through bypass to supply the loads. This is a typical AC coupling system of bypass of PCS. Another important pain point of the large-scale project is its high-ratio inductive load. Here's some pictures of the potato farm project we have done in South Africa. There are water pumps and heavy machines for packaging, and the inductive load power more than 70%. The problem is when the grid is off, when the system needs to switch from on to off-grid working mode, AC output fluctuations caused by switching can endanger system stability. To solve this problem for customers, we have launched a new DC coupling solution by using our new product, RTF. We have 2 models, 300 kilowatt and 600 kilowatt. But please note that the ATESS RTF can only convert AC to DC. It's not a bidirectional conversion. This is a DC coupling system diagram. Let's look at the right side. The AC input power is converted to DC power output through the RTF. And the battery and the PV power are both DC powers, which is also coupled to the main DC bus below. After the DC cabinet is combined, it flows to the PCS and converted into AC power output to the load. No matter how unstable the AC power is, the PCS will always remain in off-grid working mode, no longer switching between on and off, and no longer have switching time. The battery is always online. Now let me show you some real waveforms we took on site. First one, when the grid fails, PCS will switch from on to off grid, but inductive load percentage reaches 80%. Check out the right line, which is the voltage line, dropped during switching process and caused inrush current. Check the blue line. Trigger PCS over current protection fault state. The second one, when grid failed, now the battery is powering the loads, but battery is not inexhaustible. So when the battery capacity about to reach the SOC, now the system needs to switch to diesel generator working mode. But due to the weak generator performance, diesel generator mode triggers a voltage drop. Check the right line. You may ask that you saw the right line is back to normal after it's dropped, because DG mode is not possible for now, so PCS re-enters off-grid mode, and then diesel generator voltage returns to normal. But PCS will keep trying to switch to DG mode. Then let me show you the RTF solution wave. You see it's perfect. Even the inductive load is as high as 80%. Let's see, PCS always works in off-grid mode. When grid fails, there's no switching action on the AC side of PCS. We can surely avoid on-site generators with weak performance or unstable grid. It's just like an online UPS solution. Except large scale, ATESS can also provide solutions for small and medium systems by using our all-in-one design, HPS inverters, hybrid inverter. Here is a project we have done in Tanzania. This beautiful microgrid resort is powered by the ATESS HPS system. This place has preserved more pristine or wild natural atmosphere that cannot be experienced in other countries. But the situation is there is no electricity at all. So our HPS 150 plus 300 kilowatt hours battery were there to help. Now visitors can fully experience the vitality and enthusiasm of the African land. The next one is an off-grid community in Nigeria. Also, there's no electricity at all. Now this place is powering by ATESS HPS 150 plus ATESS 300 kilowatt hours batteries. With the stable power supply, the living standards of local residents have been greatly improved. In a better scenario where the grid is available, but it's not stable enough, such as on this offshore island in Madagascar, in the past, when there was a power outage, they might not have had time to save work results. Things like that were really disappointing. But luckily, the customer chose the ATESS energy storage system as a backup power source, because ATESS HPS inverters can seamlessly switch within 20 milliseconds. Their computer will not be off at all. Okay, HPS series inverters, like PCS, it also has 5 models, 30, 50, 100, 120, and 150 kilowatts. If there is an off-grid situation, also up to 4 units can be connected in parallel. So you can do 600 kilowatt system by using HPS. This is a typical HPS system diagram. And on the right side, ATESS is an automatic transfer switch. It is only needed when both DG and grid are present. In some cases, customers already have a PV inverter system installed, and as electricity demand grows, they need to expand the old system. Or inverters, whether HPS or PCS, they can be connected to the original PV inverters as an AC coupled extension. This is one of the AC coupled sites where the ATESS inverters are connected to 6 PV inverters to power a supermarket in South Africa. And there are also some light commercial systems, such as coffee shops. We can also provide you solutions for that. All-in-one design, hybrid transformer lights inverters, and customized small 56 kilowatt hours battery cabinets. The inverters, this kind of inverter is transformer-less, which means without isolation transformer. Also has 5 models, and up to 8 units can be paralleled. Part 3 is about our company. I want to simply introduce our company. So ATESS Power is a supplier of energy storage systems and EV chargers. We have started ESS business in 2013, and till today we already have more than 10 years experience in this industry. We can provide you all the certificates you need, such as EN 50549, NRS, SANCAP, and so on. We have 11 offices and warehouses around the world. In Africa, we have 2 engineers in Nigeria office, 13 engineers based in South Africa office, and we are still recruiting. We also have a spare parts of warehouse in South Africa to ensure that after-sales issues are handled efficiently. We can provide you free online or offline pre-sales and after-sales training to help you better understand our system. These are some pictures of training course we held in Nigeria and in South Africa. Well, thank you for listening, and I want to say that the goal of ATESS Power is to bring energy equality not only to Africa, but to every corner of the world. Thank you.
Wonderful, Emma. Thank you so much for that presentation. Learned a lot, and it's great to see the ongoing expansion of ATESS all over the world. So wonderful. We'll now open it up to Q&A. I see some questions have come in. We have plenty of time, so please feel free to ask any questions either in the chat box or in the Q&A tab. You can click the tab on the Zoom screen, and then we'll address them one by one. If we don't get to them all today, which I think we probably will, but we can take it offline. So I think to ride the momentum from your presentation, Emma, let's focus first on the technical questions that came in. Oh, I thought I saw some technical questions. Looks like there's some questions I can address for the financing that Odyssey supports. Yeah, but there's one maybe you can take first, Emma, and that is, are your solutions strictly dedicated to mini grids, or does it include C&I at all? And I think that you answered that in your presentation, in that, of course, it's C&I and mini grids, as well as grid tie and pretty much across the board. I didn't see any utility scale reference, and is that correct, Emma, that there's no kind of utility scale solutions yet from ATESS?
We have done less utility scales projects in Africa because where our products is designed mainly for C&I and mini grid product projects. So we focus on that.
Got it. Wonderful. Which is why you're the ideal distributed renewable energy partner for Odyssey, which is also our focus, non-utility. Great. Okay, and then I'll take the question about what is the minimum and maximum size of your financial solutions for C&I projects? So it's a great question. So generally speaking, we want to look at ticket sizes above $100,000 in total CapEx. So it doesn't mean that the contract that the EPC or developer has with the end client would not be more than that, because it would be. But in terms of the CapEx portion covered by our credit, we would want a minimum threshold of at least $100,000. In terms of maximum size, currently we're capped at around $5 million per project. And again, just to emphasize, the actual contract with the off-taker, of course, would be likely much more. I think the audience is probably familiar with the fact that CapEx is generally speaking between 60 to 80% of a project cost. And that's what this facility is designed to cover. And specifically, this facility is designed to cover the core equipment, which would be panels, inverters, and batteries of the project. All right. Well, here's another question from David Garba. Thank you for your question, David. You have dealt with ATESS to provide solar power for a state. Oh, you have a deal for ATESS to provide solar power for a state in Nigeria. How do you engage with ATESS? Well, we have your contact now after joining this webinar, and we'll make sure we put you in touch directly with Emma, or feel free to drop a direct note to us in the chat box with your contact information. Again, we should at least have your email from this webinar registration, and Emma will happily get into the details of your deal with you, and we'll see if Odyssey can support it financially. All right, so I think we answered all the questions that have come in so far. Wonderful. We got another question. So please feel free, audience, if you have any questions, keep them coming in. If you're just blown away by all of the amazing information you heard today, then that's okay too. We'll let you digest that information, and you can always get in contact with us following, and we'll make sure your question's answered. But how do I get technically trained by ATESS? That's a good question, Emma. We saw some of your pictures with training available.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Hello, David. Firstly, if we can't be in your country for now, we can arrange the online training courses for you. But this October we are going to Nigeria for the exhibition. Then we will hold a event just for training, pre-sales and after-sales training. If you want, you can join us. I will share more details with you later. And I have to say one more thing about the question, the previous question about the utility scale. I said if there's an off-grid situation, we can parallel up to 4 units, right? But if it's an on-grid system, there is no limitation. You can parallel up to no matter how many units you need. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. And then we looks like we do have 2 live questions. So with support of my colleagues, we're going to take both of these questions. We'll go to Alicia Lee first. Alicia, go ahead. I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself or if we can unmute you. I can't seem to unmute you here. Maybe one of my colleagues can try to unmute Alicia. Alicia, if you can't unmute yourself, we'll go to, okay, we'll go to Abubakar. Hi, Abubakar, welcome.
Yes, good morning. Hello.
Yes, Abubakar, we can
Hello.
hear you. Please feel free.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Abubakar from Nigeria. And before I asked my question, I think I'd like to begin by thanking you for giving us this opportunity to get more understanding on your financing and construction projects. The first thing that I'd like to possibly draw your attention to, especially the Odyssey, is about getting back to people when they fill the form online to seek for more information and clarification on how to start to get the funding or financing from the Odyssey. In our company, we have some programs that we wanted to carry out here in Nigeria, and the we're going to carry it for a university, and it is government that is going to give us the contract to do the project. So I tried as a financial assistant to the CEO, bring my request to you to give me time so we should sit down and look at the modalities of how we can be able to secure the financing. But there wasn't any response that was given to me. And I tried to join your last webinar for, I think, last month, and unfortunately I missed it because I was out of town. So that is why I said, okay, let me try to make it today to see if I could be able to see the reason why we cannot be able to get in touch with you seamlessly, and then what is the possibility of having the financing in our own case.
Thanks so much, Bubakar, for joining today and bringing that to our attention. I think what we'll have to do is follow up with you separately, Abubakar. We'll check internally to see what the status of that inquiry is, and then we'll get back to you as soon as possible. You'll hear from us within the next few hours, so we'll make sure we look at that project and the opportunity you shared immediately.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so we have a few more questions that came in, so thank you, audience. So let's keep rolling. Question for you, Emma. We have someone who requested. Oh, you can see it there?
Yeah, I can see it.
I'll just read it for the if I may, Emma, sorry, just read it for the audience because I don't think they can see this one. It's only to us. So if you could
Okay,
just
so
elaborate more about the ATESS rectifiers and how it can be configured to medium-sized systems like 50 kilowatt and 100 kilowatt systems. Thanks.
okay, yes. For this question, we have just launched the RTF solution last year, and mainly is designed for large scale, let's say up to 400 kilowatt systems. But we can see the demands in small and medium sized systems. Some of customers, they also ask this kind of RTF. So our R&D team is now working on it. We hope to launch the RTF for small and medium systems next year. Thank you.
Okay, Emma, thank you very much for that. All right, we have another question. Is Namibia a part of the countries that qualify for the credit facilities? Yes, it is. Thank you, Paulus, for your question. So for the construction credit facilities that we outlined, it's available across all different regions. We give special preference to Nigeria, Kenya, and South Africa for both solutions. but we will entertain projects in neighboring SADC countries and other African countries, as well as, of course, India, Brazil, Mexico, as I mentioned. And that will depend on the quality of the potential project opportunity. So feel free to inquire on our website, share project details and information, and we'll see if it's something that we would look at. We'll pay special attention, of course, to the off-taker and the contract, and of course, your company profile. So those would be some of the first questions that we would ask. All right. So another question is coming from a developer who seems to have already become familiar with our finance solution, and they've shared this information with their own client. And the question is the financing for the project or procuring equipment for the client? And if I'm getting the question correctly, is it direct financing to the client or is it to the EPC? And so I think let me try to answer this. So this is a credit provided to the EPC against the backdrop of escrow from the offtake. So escrow from the client. So as long as we have comfort that the client will pay into an escrow account some type of guarantee or security to Odyssey that we can recoup the cost of the equipment first, then we're comfortable. And that's insofar as we engage the client. And so we work with the EPC on analyzing that contract, etc. But it's not direct credit to the off-taker or to the client. It's credit to the EPC. And this is why it's off balance sheet lending, because it's essentially credit for the equipment itself. I didn't mention this in my presentation, but many of you may be thinking that this is actually quite similar to Sinosure. And the answer is indeed yes. It is very similar to Sinosure, but it's Sinosure Plus. So both of our offerings are essentially Sinosure Plus. So we can go the extra mile. We just need that security from the offtake of that repayment. But it's between the contract ultimately is between us and the EPC, or the developer, essentially all of you, the developer of the project. I hope that answers your question. All right, just a friendly reminder, we have another inquiry about the recording, if it can be sent. We will upload this recording and the presentation to YouTube, and the presentation will be available for download, I think, on our website. If not, we can send it to you. And so rest assured that all of this will be available in follow-up in case you missed anything. All right, we have another live question. If we can invite Ibrahim here. All right, Ibrahim, welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Justin. Good morning, Ima. My name is Ibrahim Yunusa. I am the after-sale customer service engineer in Nigeria. I'm calling regarding the question I asked earlier. You know, we normally go to site for commissioning work. So when client buys our product, then we go for commissioning. So many times, many clients make inquiry from me about your product. So that is why I come up with that question. So some of them will be like, okay, they have the customer already and they have some finance. They want to build mini grid. But what they are asking is this, that is Odyssey supporting them financially, like to build the project. Then after building project, they can kind of maybe they will have time for repayment, or they will buy the equipment directly for them. Then they will now pay the money as the customer are getting the services. So that is why I want to make inquiry so that I'll be able to answer them. Maybe if anybody comes up to ask that kind of question again, I should be able to give them a clear answer that, okay, this is what Odyssey do. This is how you can get the product through. This is how you can get our product through Odyssey, or they can help you with some finance. You understand? They'll buy the product for you, then you repay them. So that is what I want to actually get. That was my question earlier.
Thanks so much,
Hello?
Ibrahim. Yeah, happy to address that. And it's wonderful to hear you're getting these inquiries for the mini grid programs in particular. So the way it would work is the developer would, and I'll just use the term developer for this. So the developer of the DARES program or of the mini grid would submit on our platform their project and their profile. So we'll share with you, we can even share the link in the chat box if my colleague hasn't already, but we'll share with you the link where you can, the construction credit link from our website. So if you go to odysseyenergysolutions.com, you'll see a tab that says construction credit, and that's where they can submit their project. The way it would work is we would analyze what is required. They would choose their own equipment that they want to have financed. And then we would present a proposal to bring it to the site in Nigeria, to their sites. And then we would ask for an upfront commitment from the developer, somewhere between 15 to 30%, if it's for a DARES program, DARES specifically. So they would have to do that out-of-pocket payment, and then that would initiate us to pay the suppliers that they've requested. We would then import that equipment to the site, and they can meet their milestone payment from DARES to collect the remaining amount of their contract, which would cover the equipment cost. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I understand now. If I get you right, that means what you do is this: you help them procure the equipment, then but they have to pay some certain amount of a percentage amount of the total cost. Then after the equipment get to site, then they will now have to repay you the remaining amount instrumentally. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct. They would have up until about 12 months. We'll share with you a one-pager, which is essentially similar to what I outlined on my slides, that you can share with them, and they would have up to 1 year, 12 months from the time of deposit to pay back that facility. And as my colleague has just shared, we invite all of you to a webinar where we take a deep dive into this financing solution on Thursday. So, we will get into all of these questions and even more detailed answers on that webinar. So please feel free to join us on that link shared so you can register. And we welcome any continuing questions, Ibrahim, that you may have. Please don't hesitate at any time.
It's all right.
And we
Thank you
have
very
a
much.
full team on the ground in Nigeria that can support with these inquiries that you're having. So feel free to we'll get you in touch with some of them. We have colleagues there, and we can just simply refer you to them to continue these inquiries.
It's all right. Thank you very much. I think I get the answers now. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. So, okay, last question, I think, for today. Actually, let's try to fit in two more real quick. So one is a question about, do we have suppliers around East Africa, and how do we interface with countries like Uganda? Do you have support processes? I'll briefly say from Odyssey side, we have regional staff in East Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, and we could support with looking at projects in those regions. And we also, by default, are an extension of ATESS support in those regions where we've supported with designing systems. Emma, would you like to comment on that briefly before we turn it to Ahmet for a quick question?
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry. Any reference to the support ATESS offers to like East Africa?
Suppliers.
How can
Yeah,
a company
we have. You mean after sales, right?
after sales, maybe sales? Yeah.
Yeah, for after sales support, we have engineers in Zimbabwe also. And all our after sales engineers, they can travel to the countries like Uganda, like Namibia, those countries. Yeah, they travel a lot. And for
Okay.
pre-sales, of course, support, we can do it anytime you want, online, of course.
Got it. Wonderful, Emma. Thanks. Okay, we have time now. Just one more minute. We'll take one more question. So I think, David, would you like to ask a question? Yes, please feel free, my friend. David, go ahead. You have to unmute, David, if you can hear us. All right. Sorry, David. We're going to turn to Emeka then. Oh, okay. Go ahead, David.
I'm moved now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, David.
I was asking, how do I get to engage well with ATESS? Because this deal I said I'm bringing from Nigeria is very serious. I want us to engage, even right as we speak now.
All right. We will get in touch. We'll make sure you get in touch with ATESS right after this webinar, David. We have your contact information, so we'll connect you to Emma right after this.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So apologies to anyone if we didn't get to your questions. We are now at the end of the webinar, so we can answer your questions offline if we weren't able to get to them. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully this is just the beginning of an ongoing conversation about how Odyssey and ATESS can support your company. Emma, thanks so much for your presentation and the support always of the ATESS team. And we will be in contact with everyone. We have everyone's email, so we'll send a follow-up around making sure you can access this webinar, and make sure you get in touch with Odyssey, and we can connect you to the ATESS team if you're not already in touch.
Thank you too, Justin.
All right, thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.